All right, some breaking news here at Pix 11 Sports from the winter meetings. We're learning that Edwin Diaz will no longer be a Met. Sugar headed to the back-to-back champs, the Los Angeles Dodgers. And with us is former Met analyst here at Pix 11, Nelson Figueroa. Figgy, what the heck happened?
What happened? Let's see. The math is pretty simple, right? You're looking at a new highest AAV for a relief pitcher in the history of baseball. Him striking, again, striking rich when having a great season last year, 1.65 ERA. And he's getting now $23 million a year as a relief pitcher. And with the volatility of relievers and closers alike, and we're seeing it more and more in these days, there's no true Mariano Rivera, there's no true Trevor Hoffman, guys that you can just put out there and you know what you're going to get every single time. Even Edwin Diaz has had ups and downs throughout his tenure as a New York Met, but he's getting paid at the right time, and the Dodgers, shocker, were willing to pony up the money for him. When you look at what the Mets did, obviously they had 2 years left on that deal, the original deal where he was able to opt out, but it was 2 years, $38 million left. So that would have been $19 million a year. Instead, like I said, $4 million more a year, an extra year added on to that. So huge payday for Edwin Diaz. And can you say it's too rich for the Mets' blood, where it's only $4 million more per year and then add an extra year in there? I don't think that was the case. I think it's a case of David Stern saying, can he duplicate a 1.65 ERA yet again? And is it going to be the most bang for their buck when they still have a lot of other needs as well?
All right, but Figgy, you said there's been no Mariano Rivera, there's been no Trevor Hoffman. Edwin Diaz is about as close to those guys as you've seen. He's the best closer on the market. He's probably the best closer in baseball. When you look at what he's done over these years, obviously there have been a little bit of ups and downs, but he has been unbelievable as a Met. And the fact that they're losing him, I get the money. Money wasn't supposed to be a thing.
No.
Right? It wasn't supposed to be a thing when Steve Cohen took over this team. And now you're losing him to the Dodgers, who have become the Yankees, right? For all intents and purposes. They are spending money the way the Yankees used to spend money, and they are winning championships the way the Yankees used to win championships. So a lot of people were afraid about Edwin Diaz going to the actual Yankees here in the Bronx. He went to the new Yankees with the Dodgers here. But all I heard was about they didn't want to go the extra year. They didn't want to go to 4 years or 5 years. It's 3 years.
Yeah. No, that is the most surprising part of the whole thing when you hear it's only a 3-year deal. Because, again, he had 2 years left, and the team option in 28 was going to be the third year, right? So for all intents and purposes, as long as he was still being, the same Diaz, and now we're not saying 1.65 Diaz, we're not saying historic Diaz, 57 saves Diaz. We're talking about still being a guy that you can hand the ball off to. Listen, now, can I go in there and break down every single outing that he had and show you, like, his sliders weren't sliding the same way? They were backing up, actually. Like, we talked about that many a times where I'm sitting there doing, hey, let's do a breakdown on Diaz this week. And I go, I really don't want to. I want the success to be the success, right? Because that's all that matters. All the fans care about is that he got the save, he got the strikeouts. But let me explain to you, how many times did his slider go the wrong direction? How many times did he miss the strike zone and walk 2 guys in a row on nothing but fastballs? Yeah. So with that being said, were you willing to invest that kind of money into something that could be a product that goes the other way very quickly? We've seen it over and over again. Like, there comes a point in time where the Kenley Jansens of the world are no longer the Kenley Jansens of the world. All these closers that we have come to know and love throughout the last 10 years, they didn't end their careers with success. Not one of them. So we're not sitting here talking about, oh, this guy should be in the Hall of Fame when it comes to closers. Edwin Diaz has been outstanding as a Met. He has more successes than he's had failures. But the way we say with football all the time, right? Watch the tape. Yeah. Watch the tape. I can tell you that it was hard for me to go there and edit an inning worth of Diaz baseball and say every slider he threw was vintage Edwin Diaz slider that was down and away to a right-handed hitter, not moving up and in to a right-handed hitter, and just got an awkward swing because it wasn't 100. He wasn't throwing 102 miles an hour anymore. He was getting away with 98-mile-an-hour fastballs all around the strike zone. So there is that uncertainty. Even though he got the job done, There was still the uncertainty when he was in there. It started to get that Familia feel to it, right? Familia was the best closer in the game for a little while, but it started to get that Familia feel. Like, here he goes again. He's walking, guys. His base is loaded. He gets out of the jam. Yes, all's well that ends well, but at the end of the day, I don't even know if they got an opportunity to match the offer, to go the extra year, to do all that. Like, we saw that, happen with the Mets already when
Jacob deGrom.
It was never. Yeah, with Jacob deGrom, it wasn't an opportunity to even go back there. So we keep hearing more and more things about in-house stuff and how things were going. Diaz seemed to be cool with everything that was going on. As a closer, he got called upon and did his job. But what exactly would make you believe that $23 million on the table, the highest ever, to go to the Dodgers, where there's going to be opportunities aplenty? And even then, the Dodgers signed Tanner Scott, who was the best closer in the market at the time.
It didn't work out last year.
And it didn't work out last year. And they have Sasaki. He's only a $6 million on the books, that he was throwing 102 miles an hour as a closer. So you could technically use him as a closer for the first 2 years of his major league career. Look what happened with Yamamoto. Yamamoto wasn't even a full-time starter, and then goes into the World Series and does absolutely the Dodgers are playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers. And it's not even about being the new Yankees, because we've seen teams spend money. The Angels have spent money.
But the Dodgers have a chessboard full of queens. Like, they could be playing chess out there, but other people have pawns and rooks and bishops and knights, and they've got queens in every freaking position.
Yeah, it's not a fair fight right now with the Dodgers, and the crazy part is they're not done yet. You just know that about them.
All right. Let's spin this forward here, all right? Because well, let's talk about some of the details kind of surrounding this here, because the Mets went out and David Stearns brought in Devin Williams, right? So we know about the relationship between Williams and Stearns, obviously from Milwaukee. Is there any thought that Diaz just wasn't having Stearns bringing in his guy? Maybe there was a promise made, or they used Williams to play hardball with Diaz, saying, okay, we have some confidence in the back of our mind. We've got our closer here if you do end up walking. Do you think David Stearns is playing hardball and is still trying to pinch pennies like he's in Milwaukee when he's got Fort Knox behind him and Steve Cohen?
I would really, really hope not, because, again, those things are very transparent when you're doing things like that. We saw that with Pete Alonso last year with the whole Toronto thing. Oh, sure, we'll let him go to Toronto. Why? Because we'll sign Vladdy from Toronto.
Yeah.
Go to. They were literally pushing Pete to Toronto. Please go sign to Toronto so we can take Vladimir Guerrero off their hands and pay him whatever he wanted.
Oh, by the way,
him up with Juan Soto.
The Blue Jays did that. They paid Vlad Guerrero whatever they wanted, and that's no longer an option.
Right, and they went all the way to the World Series, and it kind of worked out for them as well. What I'm thinking here is, as the Mets, you needed to shore up your bullpen regardless, and so you get a guy who's fully capable of being a closer. A guy who's fully capable. He had his ego kind of knocked down so that he was an eighth inning guy, just in case Diaz did come back. And then you had a fantastic 1-2 punch in Diaz and Williams. You had a guy who throws 102 and a guy who has one of the most unhittable changeups in the game. So for me, I don't think you're playing that game. I think it's too easy to see right through that and say, oh, well, we already have our closer in place. Thanks, but no thanks kind of thing, and let Diaz just walk. Now, you were probably also hoping that he came back and said, hey, they're offering me 23. Will you give me 23.5? Like, that's what I would have assumed, that the Mets are always thinking that way. Like, we'll have the final offer.
Right.
But you know what? If the Dodgers say to you, it's $23 million, we need to know in 10 minutes.
Well, you get your agent on the phone. You get your agent on the phone and say, you've got 8 minutes. Go get Steve Cohen on the phone. Here's the deal that I need.
That's what you would hope. That's what you would hope. But for some reason, if that's not the case, I don't think this is a case of being cheap. I mean, maybe Diaz just didn't want to be in New York anymore.
Listen, it's not cheap. I'm sorry. We're talking $23 million. It's the most money, the highest annual average value for a closer. We're not talking cheap no matter how you slice this here. And look, let's not forget the Mets just paid him. Well, they gave him a contract that was worth $102 million, for 5 years, which at the time was the richest contract for a closer. So no, we're not talking about cheap here, but we're talking about a fight of the 1% in baseball who are I guess calling each other's bluff at this point. But what does it say if the Mets aren't getting a chance to match offers? Because you can have all the money in the world, if people don't want to play here. I mean, you'll get guys who will take the money at certain points in their career, but that's not going to lead to winning baseball.
Yeah, no, it really doesn't. And I think there's a certain thing where we just saw a huge turnover in the whole coaching staff, right?
Yeah.
So you got all new coaches. It's kindergarten all over again. You got to learn what coaches like you, or how they like you, how they want to deal with you. It's a situation where I think the two things: you got the money, and you have the back-to-back defending world champs going out there and coveting you in a way that
Yeah.
said they put their money where their mouth is. We want to be the best team in baseball for the next 3 years at least. Knowing we have you in there makes it a lot easier for
Yeah,
us.
I think Mookie Betts said you guys could look in 5 or 6 years to who's going to win the World Series before last year started, and they've won 2 World Series since then.
Right. So now you pushed it to that. You got a nice window where Steve Cohen is like, we're gonna, win a World Series within the next 3 to 5 years. These guys have already won 2 in a row, and they're not looking to sit back and say, okay, maybe not next year. They've already secured themselves with having that closer. Tanner Scott has a bounce back year because I don't think he's the type of pitcher that's going to sit with a 3.5 ERA.
Yep.
So he has a bounce back in a regular reliever's role, and the Dodgers can also have these two guys closing, not wearing out one guy.
Yeah.
They can go back and forth and share the duties. So do you imagine? Let's put it this way. They're selling Diaz. Here's $23 million, and you don't have to close every save opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's what the NFL did with running backs a few years ago, where it was, we're not going to have one bell cow running back anymore. We're going to split carries so both of you stay fresh. Now they're doing that with the closer out in freaking LA with 2 of the best closers in the game.
Yeah, you can do that all year long, and these guys can be as fresh as possible for when it counts the most. Once they hit September, October, that's what they did with their pitching staff, their rotation. Their whole rotation was hurt in the first couple of months, and everybody's like, "Oh, the Dodgers are in trouble." Are they? Are they really? Because all I know is that they were in mid-season form in October and September, where everybody else was sputtering just to try and get there.
Right. All right. We know how much of a fan favorite Edwin Diaz was here. The trumpets, right? The whole show at Citi Field when he ran out from the bullpen. There's another fan favorite now that is hanging out there like a big matzo ball. How much pressure does this put on David Stearns to bring back Pete Alonso now? Can you lose Alonso and Diaz in the same offseason and say that you're playing with the big boys in Major League Baseball? 2 of your fan favorites, one of them now, Pete, I mean, a homegrown player?
Yeah, if who's your plan B? Who is your plan B? Like, the only guy that they can actually say is their plan B is the kid coming from Japan. That is a Gold Glover, 3-time home run champion. He is the kind of player that they could possibly. But here's the thing: the Dodgers still probably have a shot at that guy too. It's not fair. Or Seattle has a really good shot. Seattle just made it to the playoffs. They're revamping. They signed Bo Naylor back. So it's. Can the Mets make that move that makes it okay, where you bring in a guy who's going to hit you 30 to 35, play Gold Glove defense, and then you got to fix all the other things? But I don't think you can.
We've also seen those players come over, and look, there, yes, some for every Ichiro out there, right? There's a Hideki Irabu, right? And I know I'm pitching to hitting there.
No.
But I mean, Murakami, I think, is the guy that you're referring to over there. Are you going to be able to sell that to fans when you have a known quantity in Pete Alonso here? And if I hear about defensive runs saved one more time, like, you still need to score runs.
Yes.
I have not heard anybody say, "Oh yeah, it's great if you save runs. You got to score to win a game."
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
And it's not like the pitching. It's not like the pitching staff is stellar out there that you're going to go out there and have gems every game. Like, I can't imagine a world where Steve Cohen is the owner of the Mets and you're losing Edwin Diaz and Pete Alonso in the same offseason. I just can't imagine it.
And also saying, I can't wait to have all these young pitchers up in the rotation at the same time, rather than trying to make that big move that gets you over the hump, or at least put you in position to get over the hump, right? Just to think, had they brought up McClain especially, but they brought up any other young pitchers just a week sooner. They went down to the last game. And they want to be ousted. Just one game makes a difference. Yeah, so let's stay with Pete Alonso. This now puts all the leverage almost, it seems, in Pete Alonso's, unless because you don't have any certainty with this. They're posting Murakami. You don't know if you're going to get him. You can't say with all certainty, oh, we'll bank on this. And even if you do, like, I still, there can't be a way that it's a really bad look for Mets fans, because I don't care what analytics say. I don't care what defensive runs saved or what you foresee on paper. The identity of this team and the identity of the players, you just went Brandon Nimmo, Edwin Diaz, and then Pete Alonso. So you talk about breaking up the core, and McNeil's still around. So you talk about breaking up the core. If those four guys are gone, and this is a different Mets team, it's got to be a better team, right? It's got to be a better team. And we're talking about eyeball test. Eyeball test says we're better today than we were last year.
They're not better without they're not better without Diaz. And until you tell me who the heck the replacement is for Alonso, if he ends up walking, they're not better without Pete Alonso. And look, even if Alonso's going to walk, then the pressure is on David Stearns to go out and make a move before Alonso signs anywhere. So if you go out and you're going to get Kyle Tucker, you better go out and get Kyle Tucker before Alonso announces where he's going. Because then it's going to be, if Alonso leaves first, then you're just throwing money at other players so you don't look bad to try and save face at that point.
Once again, transparent.
And the price tag is going to be so much higher. And the price tag is going to be so much higher.
Yeah, no, right. This one move for what seems like only $4 million a year, has the ripple effect is a tsunami. This isn't just a lake and you're like, oh, wow, look, there's little waves. No, this is a tsunami of just $4 million a year. And no one really saw this coming. Everybody just thought, hey, he's going to stay and play out the rest of his contract, or they'll rework the deal. It seems simple. Rework the deal. Throw $4 more million into it, right?
Yeah.
But if you're going to sit back, and we saw this with the Giants and Saquon Barkley, it was just $2 more million. He'll be back, or he's not going to get more than that. Oh, yeah, he did. And what happened? They won a Super Bowl.
A championship. All right, so last thing here. Adam Ottavino came out and was very critical of Carlos Mendoza.
Yeah.
And I think that at the time that was a little bit self-aggrandizing for Ottavino, saying he would have been the one to protect them, right, if he was out there as the veteran in that bullpen. But now you look at it, and you look at the way they gave the ball to Edwin Diaz, and to his credit, he took it, right. Down the stretch there to try and pitch them into the playoffs. And you look at what he did last season, and now that you let him walk, is there a feeling of, okay, well, maybe Stearns, the same way with the running back, you use the Saquon Barkley analogy, there's tread on the tires. We're going to go out there and let him have those carries, or in this case, pitch those innings, and then we know we're getting rid of him at the end of the season. We're not going to match that payment. Doesn't it feel a little bit like that too? Like you've chewed him up and spit him out?
Not nearly as bad as what we saw when Aroldis Chapman went to the Cubs, right? When you knew that one was till it falls off, and we're not bringing him back. You know, they made the trade, it helped him get to the World Series, and he was out there giving it his all. I don't feel it was to that magnitude, but they had nothing left. You put almost 50 pitchers in uniform, 50 pitchers in uniform. So you tried anything and everything to keep it afloat. And again, you finished one game out of making the playoffs, which was I would say the low watermark for the goal on the season, right? Get to the postseason.
Make the playoffs, yeah.
Right, and see how deep you can get. You finished that close. So for Diaz, it was I'll do whatever it takes. And it wasn't like he was doing it and you could see the degradation in his stuff and like, oh my God, he's hanging on by a thread. No, I think it was, you know what? He's going to go out there, whether it's 5 outs, 6 outs, 9 outs, he's going to try and give you everything he has. And Carlos had to play his hand that way. There was no chance that you could say, all right, we went with Diaz, and now let's just go with one of these other guys again that, you know, we're about to send out tomorrow so we can bring in another guy. So that wasn't going to be the situation. So I think it's a little different. I don't think they rode him till the wheel fell off. However, in which I do think when it came to Edwin Diaz and it comes to just closers in general, like I don't have confidence in many of them. And if anything, we're seeing more and more with this, whether it's pitch tipping, whether it's, stealing signs or whatever the guys are doing, you're seeing more and more closers get exposed. And they're all-star closers who are looking up, and all of a sudden guys are on everything that they throw, whether it's 102-mile-an-hour cutters with Class A.
You can mention Ryan Helsley if you're gonna, and you don't use Class A. Don't use Class A.
Class A, Helsley. All these guys that the year before it was like, oh my God, 49 saves and unhittable stuff, and then they come to the Mets and they come to a bigger market, and you're like, whoa, how come this guy's getting hit all over the place? So
don't use Class A though. When you start 1-0 in the count every time, it's difficult to come back. You might think it's a little hubris.
Remember, it was against the Yankees that he was like getting wrapped around all over the place. And I started saying, I go, the Yankees have something on him, and they never made it apparent during the regular season. You know what I mean? It was like, all right, tip your cap. It's a game. Postseason came, and all of a sudden he couldn't get it out. I mean, guys are smoking the ball all over him. So I just think that you're really concerned about is what are you going to get the bang for your buck? There's so many things that they need to do, and they can do, but now you're looking around the landscape of sports media, and they're calling David Stearns cheap. And that was never the intention. It was to give the guy who was able to build contenders out of, basically out of contenders out of Lego
on
blocks.
A shoestring budget. It's Moneyball, right? He was able to do that.
But now it was like, okay, now let's add the addition of what we know is tried and true talent. The money doesn't matter. We don't care what the payroll is. And everybody's like, oh, the lockout has an effect of this. No, none of that has an effect right now, because Steve Cohen does not care about that. He's trying to win next year, and then let whatever else takes care of itself. So I'm very surprised and very shocked that the Mets weren't at least given an opportunity to make a competitive offer. And that, if their stance was, we'll sit back and, see if they come to us kind of thing. And obviously that strategy is not working.
All right. Well, it's cold here in New York, but the hot stove is raging right now. Of course, you can tune in to Pix 11 Sports. Nelson Figueroa will have more tonight throughout the newscast, and we will have you updated if any more moves break from the Mets, the Yankees, or any other big news from around Major League Baseball. Thanks for tuning in, and stick with Pix 11. We'll get through this together, Mets fans. Talk to you later.